This is episode 132. If you feel you can do something you love, do it. Introducing James Secombe on the BTS Creative Academy podcast, UNCUT. With me, your host,
Hello, James.
Martin Colton.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
We haven't just met, have we? We've just dived into the podcast, but I just picked you up from the train station, didn't you?
Yes, you did indeed.
Just had a journey in, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
How was the journey? Was it okay?
Yeah, it was fine. It was, well, a journey. It was very scenic watching coming out of London.
Yes, yeah, there is that escaping London. So you're based in London yourself? You're based in London. So yeah, coming out of London, you start to all of a sudden it gets greener and greener as you come out and arrive into the town of Harlow, which is actually I see it quite concrete living here.
Do you think?
But I guess if you compare it to London, it is very green.
Oh God, yeah.
And we are very lucky for our green spaces in this town. So.
Well, it's just less grey.
Less grey, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining me today. Let's jump straight into it.
You're welcome. Yeah.
There is a little tradition that I have. It's something very, very simple. How I kick off these podcasts.
Okay.
We do a little countdown, then we clap. It's something silly that's happened.
Okay.
Okay. It happens every time, and that's what we do. And so we go 3, 2, 1, and clap. Would you like to join me?
So 3, 2, 1, clap.
And clap, and then the podcast begins.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So 3, 2, 1.
Oh dear.
And that's it. That's it. We're in now. That's the official start to the podcast.
Sweet.
Here we are. So so recently we met on a small, very low budget, independent film set.
We did indeed.
Yes. Tell me about that. How you got into that?
Well, one of my mates who I went to with at drama school, he as a matter of fact found that job not through his agent, because we have the same agent, but he found it through the Mandy network.
Yes. Yep.
So he got in touch with one of the guys who was helping direct the piece, and when the director asked him, have you got anyone else who'd be interested in this? And my mate gave him my name, and then he got in touch and he was like, hey, we'd be interested to cast you as one of the extras. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah. So I went along for the crack. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to be an extra for the day.
Yeah, and also it's just something to do. It was work.
Yeah.
You know.
Experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting yourself out there, networking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is a good example of that kind of getting yourself out there and that kind of networking can do.
There you go.
You know, you turn up for a day of free, not getting paid, extra work.
Yeah.
Where you're just part of someone's project, but you meet people.
That you do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, and it's really important. I feel that in this industry.
Absolutely.
To get to meet new people and get yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, being an actor is quite a solitary thing, isn't it?
Unfortunately.
How long have you been sort of doing acting for? Has it been something that you've done all your life, or is this quite recent thing?
Quite recent. I didn't really know I wanted to be. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I've always had an affinity for performing in some way or another. Mm-hmm. I mean, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to perform in front of other people, and I didn't really realise how much I really wanted to do it until 2019. Mm-hmm. Because I'll be honest with you, I was never an academic.
Right. Okay.
I wasn't.
Yeah, neither was I. So I
really.
Yeah, I completely get that. Yeah. When you just didn't gel with the subjects at school.
No. I think part of it was because I didn't really have my head in a good space at the time. Because I remember saying, no shame in admitting this, I got 0 GCSEs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember saying to my mum, I can't do this. I just can't. Because, it just didn't, click.
Yeah.
And also, I wasn't fond of being made to study things that I simply did not care about, So, speaking of which, I've got a bit of a story to tell you in a minute.
Of course, I look forward to it. That's what we're here for. This is story time.
There you go. Yeah. Although at the same time, I always had this creative side in me. Mm-hmm. So like when I was in class, you know, I'd make up these characters, you know, like a lot of them were to do around soldiers and war and violence.
Mm-hmm. Right, okay.
Because I'm also an army fanatic. Mm-hmm. I was never in the military, just to put it out there. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I like...
But you have an interest in the army, in the armed forces?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a cadet for a few years.
Okay.
But that's a whole different story. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would always create characters. Sometimes I'd play different parts to myself when no one else was looking.
Right.
Sometimes I would imitate other people or even teachers.
Okay.
And one thing I tried was, I remember I used to hang out with this small little clique of guys that, I mean, they were really nice guys. Like I clicked with them. At first I thought, oh, why would I want to hang out with them? Where did
you grow up? Was this did you got a Welsh background, is that right?
Yes, my dad's Welsh.
Yes. Yeah, is that where you grew up?
No, I've grown up in London all my life.
Okay.
I'm originally from South London, mm-hmm. but I moved to Northwest London when I was like 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. So I've lived here for about 20 years.
Right.
London, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's where you went to school in and around London.
Yeah.
And so you saying you had a good group of friends or not? Or
I found a good group of friends.
You found a good group of friends.
Yeah.
Okay, so initially the people that you were at school with, what were they like?
Fakes.
Sorry?
Fakes.
Freaks.
No, fakes.
Fakes. Yeah. I found at school, the people I was at school with, I was just with them because they lived in the same postcode as me. I had one friend there who I could honestly say like I bonded with and connected with. There were some other people that were okay around school.
Yeah.
But in general, I felt quite lonely at school because I felt so different.
Really?
Like I just wasn't finding that connection at all with people. It wasn't till I found theatre outside of school that I started to find people that were like-minded like me.
Oh, wow.
And that I could connect with and that I was starting to build friendships and bonds with.
Yeah.
That were completely different to what I'd experienced at school.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of us that have that issue.
Oh, we do, yeah.
Because we're thrown into this place where, the people are just simply there because they live in the same area as you.
Well, yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the same type of person as you.
Absolutely. Mm. You know, you'll in high school, there's this social hierarchy. Like if you're considered unpopular or, you know, or if you like dress a certain way or you're like shy or whatever, you're instantly put in the bottom.
Yes.
Or whereas like if you do sports or something like that, or you get loads of chicks or loads of women, you automatically go to the top.
Yeah. And if you try to come outside of where you've been pigeonholed, then people will make sure that they put you back into that place, won't they, when you're at school, when you're younger. People want to keep you there.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
And like you say, you know, you're forced into this place. You have no control over who you're going to meet.
So do you think that the people that are around you, do you think that affected your learning? Or was that a different thing in itself as well?
I think it did affect my learning, yeah. I definitely think it did.
Yeah.
Because you probably had this. I mean, you always had people like telling you, oh, you'll never achieve shit.
Yeah.
You know, you're...
I remember I had so I'm quite a bit older than you. So like, but you're in your early 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just in my late 30s, early 40s. Well, I'm going into 40 this year.
1984?
1984, yes, 1984. Which we spoke about briefly, the play 1984,
oh, yes!
Didn't we? On the way in. Yeah. Which we'll come back to that, actually. We'll put a pin in 1984.
Sweet.
But yeah, I would like to think school has changed a lot since I was there, and I think it has. Mm-hmm. But when I was there, dyslexia wasn't really recognised. It was only just starting to be spoken about in the 90s.
Really?
And I had an assessor come in one day to see why I was falling behind, and he sat with me for a whole day. And he was a real character, this guy. He had a real big curly moustache and round glasses. He looked like a guy from the game Guess Who. Like he had all of the features. I'll never forget him. But at the end of the day, he just turned around to me and said, "You're dumb. You're slow. You're just behind. You're dumb." And that was literally. And he honestly used the words "dumb," and I was like, "Okay." I just accepted that. I didn't question it. Didn't even go home to my parents and tell them like anything about it. I just was like, okay, yeah, an adult tells me I'm dumb, therefore I must be. But go forward a couple of years later, and I go to college. The first or second week of being there, the tutor turns around to me and goes, "I think you're dyslexic." And it was like, "Oh, okay. Have you ever had a test?" I was like, "Yeah, I had a test, but he said I was dumb." and the guy was like, "What?" And he's like, "No, we're getting you a test again." And they did, and another assessor came in, and I had another test, and I was like, "Yes, clearly you're dyslexic."
Wow.
Yeah.
So the guy who said you were dumb, he probably was dumb himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot to be learnt from that, isn't
there?
There's a lot to take away. That not everyone knows what they're talking about, for sure. And even as kids, maybe we shouldn't always listen to the adults.
No.
But yeah, I'd like to think things have changed a bit. Did you have any difficulties like that as well?
What, like with learning?
Learning difficulties?
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time.
Because normally it tends to be, I've found, that a lot of creative people do have learning difficulties.
They do.
A lot of creative people have dyslexia, or I'm not going to try and name all the different types of learning difficulties because I'll get it wrong and I'm not educated enough to know them all. But we tend to think differently.
Yeah.
Someone that pops to mind, Richard Branson.
Yes.
One of the wealthiest men in the world.
Virgin Media,
yeah, the Virgin brand. He can't write at all. Can't read and write at all. But yet he's created a multi-million-pound industry.
Yeah.
So we can achieve great things.
Of course you can.
Through these struggles.
Like, just because somebody says, "Oh, you got a pen and paper, you need to write down everything you see on the screen."
Yeah.
Like, piss off.
It doesn't necessarily work for us, does it?
It doesn't, no.
No.
And speaking of which, when you were in high school, you studied Shakespeare in school?
Not at school, no. Well, I did, but I backed off of it. I was like, I hate this at school. I hated performing.
Same.
I hated Shakespeare. I hated. I remember sitting in English class reading Shakespeare and being like, what? Do you know?
Yes.
And and I couldn't stand it. Whereas now I have a big love for Shakespeare now.
Yeah.
Discovering it outside of school in a theatre. When I discovered it at the theatre, it was taught to me in a completely different way. It was taught to me on the stage,
not in a book.
Come away from the book. It's not about reading; it's about performing.
There you go. Because Shakespeare was made to be performed.
Yes.
Because if you just read it out of a book, you're kind of like, well, it doesn't make much. It has no meaning when you're reading it from a book. But when you speak it, the meaning changes completely.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So where did this change from you? From you've got school that's not going so well, but then at some point you've discovered acting. So when did that path find a new route?
Well, I tell you what. So 2019 came along. Mm-hmm. I was very stuck at this stage, and I was originally going to do some course which was basically public services, but then at the last minute I backed out and I thought, hang on a minute, maybe I don't quite want to do this. Mm-hmm. And then I thought...
What was it about it you didn't want to do?
I don't know, I just didn't like the vibe of the people there.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't like... No, there's something about them which just screamed, well, twats.
An intuition that you read and you listened to.
Yeah. And then, so I went home and my mum said, "Any luck?" And I was like, "No." Mm-hmm. then I said, oh, well, I guess that's it then. But then she said, I'll be back in a few minutes. So she returned and she said, I spoke to someone and they said, how about performing arts? You like doing voiceovers and stuff like that, don't you? And I went, yeah. Then she went, well, lucky for you, there's a last minute interview with the people that run it. And I was like, she was like, do you want to go? And I was like, oh, God, yeah.
The run what?
Basically, like an interview like of getting on the course.
Okay.
So I went there. Mm-hmm. I met this guy called Rob, who's also Welsh. Mm-hmm. And he's been in this industry for like over 35 years. So he sat down with me and said, well, what do you like about performing? And then basically I just... Let's put it this way. I did an impersonation of Joe Pesci, and he was like, oh, very great. Like, be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So I was like, oh, that's a bloody relief. At least I've got something to do,
Yeah.
So
how did your mum make that connection then? Did she have some kind of connection at the school or something? Or
no, she... she just gave them a call, and somebody said, how about performing arts? And then, she told me, well, you do so many impersonations, like you make characters so easily, so why...
she could see like this thing for you that you should be doing.
Yeah.
She could see it within you.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And the first play we ever did was, have you heard of Seussical, the musical?
Yes.
Right. Now, me being very new to this, I was like, oh, God, we're going to do a show. Oh, my God. I didn't want a lead role. So I applied for, like, one of the ensemble parts. Mm-hmm. I think I applied for, like, I don't know what they're called, like, Who's.
Right, okay,
yeah,
yes, yeah.
So I auditioned for, like...
This is Dr. Seuss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And during the audition, you had to sing a song that Horton the Elephant sings to Jojo,
right? Okay.
Who's one of the characters. And Rob went, yeah, come in, James, come in. Play. At the end of the song, he went... That was him. And so I thought, oh, wasn't expecting that. So
what did those lack of words, that lack of just like blown away, what did that mean to you?
Well... I was certainly relieved that he didn't say you're shit.
Yeah,
he just looked at me and went, "Wow, didn't know you could do that." So I was like, "Really?" Because at the time I thought I couldn't sing. I was very insecure about it. I thought, okay, just go in there, just get it over with, just sing, just do what you can. If they say you're shit, you're shit.
And did you have any training of singing at that point?
No. Never. So then, like, the week later, of the auditions was, like, the casting was coming out. And then they said, The Cat in the Hat, James will be playing it. And I went, excuse me? So I got really, I was like, no, this can't be right. Mm-hmm. This can't be right. I thought, what am I going to do? I didn't ask to be a lead role. Mm-hmm. And then I got handed the script, and I thought, oh, I'm going to have to learn all this. But once I started learning it, I thought, actually, I quite like this. And so it was a laugh. We performed at, toured around primary schools, and I met some great people there. But there was also a lot of gossip going around the classes.
I think that's quite normal, isn't it, at that kind of age? Is it normal?
Yeah. Now, yeah, still, but not nearly as bad as it was 5 years ago, because people were falling out over silly things, like people were complaining about the parts that they got. People wouldn't turn up to lessons,
There's always drama in the theatre.
Yep.
there's all that, I think within some performers, some of us are really big extroverts.
Yeah.
And the drama just, they can't help it.
No.
They can't help the gossip and the causing a scene. And do you find that quite distracting then when you're trying to do all of this stuff?
Yeah. Not only is it distracting, also it undermines trust between people. you fall out, because even if you make good friends with someone, somebody says this, somebody says that, that's it. You're not friends with them anymore.
Yeah.
And also, it distracts from doing the actual work. And, there's always the threat of if it's so bad, the show will get pulled and there'll be no show. Mm-hmm. Luckily, when the pandemic hit in 2020, March 2020, basically I went AWOL, didn't go back. Mm-hmm. Although I didn't not want to go back, because in lockdown I was smoking a lot of marijuana.
Okay.
I was doing lots of exercise, mm-hmm. and I think I may have had a bit of a mental breakdown.
Okay.
Because I think I came down with cabin fever, mm-hmm. and
it was different it was difficult and different for a lot of people in different ways that period of time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And some of us found coping mechanisms, and some of us didn't. So what happened? Was there kind of like a period of time when you was doing this acting course, mm-hmm. that you then wasn't feeling like it was all working for you, and then COVID hit and that made things change?
No, quite the opposite. I think early on I thought, this is really, I really love this. Mm-hmm. And from that point on I said, I don't see myself doing anything else apart from acting. And then obviously pandemic hit and there was a year of doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And then I found the Bridge Theatre Training Company.
Okay.
Have you heard of them?
I haven't, no.
It's a drama group in Camden.
Okay.
It's a private course, so you had to pay to get on there. Mm-hmm. And because originally I applied to go to Chicken Shed, which is a theatre company which has no academic work whatsoever, no GCSEs, none of that bollocks. Mm-hmm. And I applied for that in like September 2020. Mm-hmm. First audition was unsuccessful, so I thought, oh. Then 2021 came along. I auditioned again. They said, oh, sorry, it was unsuccessful again. And then I found the Bridge. I thought, oh, let's check this out. Mm-hmm. I auditioned for it. I did one of Marlon Brando's monologues from Apocalypse Now.
Right, okay, yeah.
And they said...
Was that completely improvised?
Yes.
That was the improvised... Because Apocalypse Now, I believe that he didn't look at the script once, I believe.
No, yeah.
And he, completely... So you've then learned and took a monologue that was once improvised.
Yeah.
That's quite a challenge, because that was raw and natural in the moment.
It was, yeah.
And to take a Brando piece is always a big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, most of the monologue, about 80% of it makes no sense. Mm-hmm. No. Sorry, a large chunk of it makes sense, but the rest of it is just bollocks.
Yes, yeah.
Because he goes on about, horror and moral terror, your friends. It's like, what's that all about? Mm. But hey-ho. So I went to the Bridge. The director there, I mean, full of beans. Never met someone like him before at all. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met my best mate now, who is Welsh.
Okay.
Yeah, I met some really good people there, and those are the people who I've felt like they were family. I felt like I truly belonged.
Similar to me.
Yeah.
You don't find them at school, but you find them outside once you've finished.
Yeah. When
you start doing your thing that you're meant to be doing with other people that are doing their thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying.
Oh.
Yeah. That you found your people within the theatre.
Yeah. Absolutely. However,
go on.
However, in December of 2021, they were planning to do The Tempest. Do you know The Tempest?
I don't know it well.
Yeah.
No. So I don't. Why should I lie? No, I don't know I know of The Tempest. That's as far as my education with that goes.
Yeah. They said the the director said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've decided on our play for 2022 next year, and we're going to be doing The Tempest." And I thought, that's Shakespeare, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, fuck off, not Shakespeare.
So at this point, you didn't like Shakespeare?
Well, yeah.
Because you're only coming from your experience of what you've had at school. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, I'll tell you just one story and then I'll carry on with it. This is back in high school. We had a substitute teacher, and we were doing Shakespeare's Macbeth. And because I really didn't like the lesson and wasn't doing any of my work, my teacher asked me to stay behind for 15-minute detention. And what happened was I was like, I don't want to do this. And I'm gonna say an offensive word in a minute, so I hope you're okay with that.
We'll put a beep on it if it's really bad. We've put a warning here. Skip ahead if you're
okay, great.
Easily offended.
But it's not too controversial to say. Okay. So I said, like, oh, I can't do it, whatever. And this teacher looked at me and said, James, you need to start working in order to get your future in, like, you know. She basically just said, look, you need to stop this attitude and carry on working. And at that point, I totally lost it. Mm-hmm. I looked at her and stood up and said, do you really think I give a shit about any of this bollocks that you're trying to teach me? Who gives a fuck about how art thou, what thy, this shit? And then I ranted to her. I was like, Shakespeare's fucking stupid. Why should I, an individual in modern day Britain, have to learn any of this shit that makes no sense, has no relevance to us today? I don't know why we're learning it, and, you know, it just makes no sense to me. Okay, and eventually I looked at her and I went, and do you know why? Because Shakespeare is retarded. I do not care about some 400-year-old dead guy.
And at that time, that's so much pressure on you at school, isn't it?
Yeah.
To try and understand and get this Shakespeare. And then you're being told, well, this is going to affect your future. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to a 15, 16-year-old? Like, nothing.
No.
Does it? It's almost too hard to comprehend how that is going to change the entire life, that you've got no idea where you're going anyway.
Well, yeah, you don't.
Be told, well, you've got to read this Shakespeare, otherwise the rest of your life is fucked. Isn't it?
Well,
so
yeah.
You're going to have an outburst like that, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I guess it's tough for teachers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's tough for teachers to try and get the message across. They have a really hard job. And I know some teachers that are fantastic people, and I think the majority of them are fantastic people, teachers.
Well, yeah.
But yes, it's dealing with young adults and trying to tell them that you've got to understand this strange language perfectly, otherwise your future's
buggered.
Yeah, on the line.
Yeah, I think I startled her a bit.
Yeah, it sounds like
she was just back in her chair like, oh, yeah. James, I didn't know you felt so strongly about that. And I went, well, I fucking do. And I just walked out.
And sometimes we have these moments, don't we, where everything just builds up on us, and all of a sudden we'll have an outburst.
Yeah.
And like that was your outburst moment. Yeah. You know.
But, you know, I survived high school.
Yep. Yeah, you're still here. You found some direction and path.
I did.
You've left.
Yeah.
And then having done The Tempest, at what point in that did you start to find some kind of enjoyment or interest within it?
As soon as... Well, when the casting came along, I mean, you know some of the characters, or...
No, let's pretend I know nothing.
Okay.
I know nothing.
So I auditioned for the main antagonist, the monster, or basically Caliban. Then I auditioned for the main protagonist's, basically henchman, little fairy called Ariel. Mm-hmm. And the auditions were actually quite fun, because you could get to play with, you know, reading for characters and stuff like that. You could do it comedic, you could do it serious. Like,
it sounds like it was about play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when the casting was announced in January, I knew my mate was going to get Ferdinand, who is like the young, handsome lead. Mm-hmm. And he got, well, as predicted, he got Ferdinand because he had good chemistry with someone else there. Mm-hmm. And there were two casts, right? So there was cast, well, usually you hear like cast A and B, but this director, he didn't use cast A or B, he said cast in numbers. So there was cast 9 and there was cast 16.
Right, okay.
And I got Ferdinand, and as soon as I started learning the script and playing with it and speaking it out loud, something in me just clicked and thought, hang on a minute. When I speak this, there's a sense of, I really don't know how to explain it. There's, the first time reading the script, I thought this is different. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm doing Shakespeare right now. I really don't know how to explain it. Something in me just said,
I understand this now.
Yeah.
Mm. Through performing it rather than reading it out of the book.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Through going for it. That was very similar with me, even being dyslexic. I remember I did Romeo and Juliet. It was my second theatre thing that I
really
did. And the director there, he wanted me to play. He wanted me to play Romeo. He was very much from the beginning like, yeah, I want you to do Romeo. We're doing Romeo and Juliet. I was like, I'm dyslexic. I can't do this. And he's like, let's just try it. Let's try it out. Let's start playing with the text.
Yeah.
Let's start reading it out loud and performing it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think I found a rhythm within the text.
Yeah.
And also I discovered very early on in my acting career and journey that I learnt very well from listening to others. Mm. So he would read it, and I would almost kind of like mimic him. I would learn from mimicking, and then that evolved into something else after I mimicked.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's a similar way to how you learn, because you said that you do impersonations. So from that mimicking, from that, I bet when you learnt the Marlon Brando speech, I bet you watched Apocalypse Now.
Oh yeah, many times,
time and time again.
Yeah.
And mimicked, and then created your own version.
Yeah.
Through mimicking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, if you copy someone else's performance, mm-hmm. like, same...
It's not going to... That copying is not going to work. But
no.
You can find inspiration.
Yeah.
You can find a guide. You can find an outline to how something might work.
Yeah. Because what I used to do was copy other people and it just never worked.
And that, I guess that's what mimicking is, isn't it? If you do, like you said, like you did a Joe Pesci impersonation, well, unless you're literally going to be
Joe Pesci,
it's not gonna come across quite right. Or if you're going to be an impersonator, but that's not really what actors are, is it?
No.
We have to find our own space after that performance.
You do,
we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as you say, there are times you get away with it, but mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know about you, but whenever I look at like Elvis Presley or Michael Jackson impersonators, I just end up laughing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's there are a couple of good ones.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple. There are a couple that do it quite well and put a lot of effort into it. But I think it's the ones that do really well is when they put their own tweak on it.
Yeah.
For instance, I saw one of my favourite plays is The Jersey Boys. Mm-hmm. And when The Jersey Boys... Now, Frankie Valli is a bit of a character. Do you know Frankie Valli at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, very high-pitched voice when he sings. And if you used to do just a straight impersonation of that within the play, within the musical, it will come across quite comedic, whereas it's quite a serious play.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. You've got to put a bit of yourself into the performance.
Absolutely.
Or it becomes comedic. That's the danger.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And if it becomes comedic, then
you especially within a serious piece, you're going to lose your audience.
You will.
Unless it's supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah, there you go.
You know. So where next then? Where did it take you next? Where is your acting career? You say you've got an agent at the moment?
Yes.
Yes. How is this your first agent that you've had? Okay. Yeah. And where did you discover this agent?
He came to me.
Nice. Okay, that's always a good thing if they come to you. I often find. When you say it came to you, did they come to see a production that you was in?
Yeah, we were doing Macbeth.
Right.
And he came to me. He emailed me 2 days after we did a show, and he was like, "Hey, I'd be interested to represent you." And I went, "Yeah, I'd like to be represented."
Yeah.
And I played Macduff in Macbeth. The sword fight was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like proper medieval broadswords, but in modern military clothing.
Okay.
And it was quite a weird adaptation of Macbeth. I mean, you know the play Macbeth.
Yes, I do know Macbeth, yeah.
You know the bit at the start with the bloody captain?
Right, okay.
The director had this idea that when the bloody captain does his speech, like just before he does it, he like dies and then gets revived with lobsters and then comes back as a ventriloquist dummy.
Okay. And I think this is one of the really good things about Shakespeare. And actually, I was speaking to someone on here the other night he was saying to me, I just don't get Shakespeare at all, and how it's still going on 400 years later. And
yeah.
I was saying, well, one of the reasons is because every single time someone puts on Macbeth, it's done in a different way.
Yeah.
You'll never see Macbeth in the same way twice.
No, never.
You know, that's why it's continuing, I think, is because you can interpret the text in so many different variations.
You absolutely can.
And then not just interpreting the text, but then the setting, the characters, everything that's involved within Shakespeare can be rejuggled and reshifted for whatever vision you have for it.
Absolutely.
You know, so even if that is being revived by lobsters, that is there for you to do.
Yeah.
You know, and we're quite lucky, I guess, to have productions like that available to us that we can.
Oh yeah.
Play around with like that, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. There was also this other bit where, you know, the bit where Macbeth gets told "Beware Macduff." This, yeah.
All the warning and.
Instead of Macbeth going to visit the witches in this like sort of dark cave, he was supposed to go visit the witches' jazz club, and then get told his future.
Yes, yeah.
Which is quite weird, I guess.
Yeah. but if that's the director's spin on it, then I guess you had to see it to fully understand what was going on. Or even then, you might not necessarily have to understand it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, a play is a play.
So what did the agents specifically come looking for people to represent?
Yeah.
Was that the purpose of him being there? And he saw what you did and was like, "Oh, actually, I see something in James."
Yeah. I mean, I can't say names on here, but
no, of course.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm completely satisfied with that agency. So
yeah, I think agencies, sometimes it's hard for them to live up to our expectations.
Yeah.
Of what we hope for them to do for us, and it takes quite a while, I think, to find a good one.
Oh yeah,
of someone that's genuinely looking out to find work for us as individuals, rather than just find a way for them to make money. You know, it's there are a lot of them out there these days.
Oh yeah, a lot of them.
You know.
Although there's more actors than there are agents.
Of course, yes. There's almost like not enough to go around.
No,
and
never.
It's good. I always think it's better to have someone representing you than to not.
Yeah. Have
someone there.
Yeah.
But what do you expect from an agent then? What is it you're looking for from them?
What am I looking for? Just work, really. Just paid work, I'd say.
Is it the work or is it the opportunities for work?
Both. Both. It's definitely both the opportunities and the work itself, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're not satisfied... I mean, but just because you don't have an agent doesn't mean you can't still get work.
No, Very true.
I've been looking a lot on Mandy and Backstage. Although I've noticed on Backstage there isn't a lot of work that fits my criteria. So basically the place for me to be going was Mandy, really. I found some good things on there.
And are you on Spotlight as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But through Spotlight, that's more difficult because like it's connected to your agency.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, is there a way to like turn that off? Like,
yeah, of course you can turn the agent link off there, but then the agent would know and you wouldn't be represented by them anymore because they want you to be. That is their main source of seeking auditions for an agent, is looking on Spotlight.
Yeah.
And they do see some auditions before it will go into the feed that you can see as an actor.
Yeah.
So they'll be notified of some stuff that you're not being notified of.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spotlight's I got a funny relationship with wanting to be on Spotlight or not. It still is the only place to be recognised as a professional actor.
Yeah.
A directory for professional actors.
Mm-hmm.
But then the quality of stuff that I'm seeing on there, I don't see anything on there that's suitable for me. I don't get a lot of one particular type of job. That just doesn't suit me as a middle-aged white male. It's just maybe the industry's changing a lot, but I just don't see that opportunity there for I don't know what you'd call it, the type of acting work that I'm even seeking. Drama. There's not a lot of drama on there. Not many commercials on there actually. I get my most acting opportunities actually through my extras agencies.
Really?
And always have done. I've had my biggest opportunities through my extra agencies. And I know a lot of actors, especially young actors, look down on extra work. But I've done some great things that I would never have done if it wasn't for them extra agencies. And I've had some great auditions for parts that were linked to the extras agencies because the director wasn't necessarily looking for a trained actor. Yeah. They wanted someone that was more normal and everyday kind of person. Yeah. That wouldn't give a performance. I've had that 2 or 3 times on big films.
Really? Which films in particular?
One that springs to mind is Ken Loach, a massive director from through the 70s. Even recently he's been making films. Very, I'm pretty sure he's won a couple of Oscars. Massive. But he likes taking real people and putting them in films. And he likes taking real people and putting them in situations that he will find the performance within them. And yeah, I got that for an extras agency, an audition with him. Mm-hmm. I didn't know who he was when I auditioned for him, which was silly. That taught me a lesson.
Really?
Always know who you're going to audition with. Always know who's who's going to be on the other side of that table, sitting in the chair, who's going to be making the decision. Because I said the wrong things that day.
What did you say?
I talked about how I want to train and how all this knowledge that I've got. Sorry, mate. Yeah, I spoke too much about my education, trying to big myself up, and that was not what he wanted.
Really? He
wanted to know about my time in the Air Cadets. I mentioned that very briefly.
Really?
And that was what he was keen in knowing. But I kept taking it back to, I've just been at Harlow College studying a BTEC National Diploma in Performing Art. And he was like, he just didn't want to know.
Wow.
But I didn't understand that till I left the room. He wanted to know about me being at Air Cadets. He wanted to know about the experiences that I got from that.
So not just doing acting itself.
But he wanted to know about me in my real life.
Yeah.
In the real world. And I think that and coming away from that, that's one of the things that I learned.
Yeah.
Of how important that is to not just be a performer. It's actually to have experiences within the real world.
Yeah.
As well.
Because without those experiences in the real world, you won't be... Well, without those experiences, you wouldn't be as versatile when acting, you know?
Mm-hmm. This is going to sound really corny, but I think the most important school we can go to is the school of life. Like, it's the school of experiencing all these different things that are happening to us.
Yeah.
I think that is the most, the everyday lessons. And then we can channel that within our art that we do.
Absolutely.
Whatever art that is, whether that's acting or a musician or a painter, we'll channel the experiences we have rather than the subjects that we've been taught.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds pretty obvious kind of when you say it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, life is essentially a lesson. Mm-hmm. What you make of life is how you want to make it.
Mm-hmm. And what about learning from others? Has there ever been anyone that sort of inspired you along the way?
Yes. Various actors I've watched on screen, like watching how their eyes move, how they engage with other actors, Martin Sheen, one great example. Forgotten his name now, I'm trying to remember. Heath Ledger, another great example.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, all different actors known for playing very different roles, but good in their own way.
Yeah.
Because if an actor's crap, well, they're just crap.
What is it that can make an actor bad then? What is it that when we know a bad actor, we all know it, whether even us that are not performers, an audience member can tell someone that's a bad actor.
Yeah.
And what is it, do you think, that they do that shines through as being crap?
Not understanding the character, overdoing everything, like over-egging. Like, so instead of just being natural, like, everything's heightened, like, that is an instant turn-off, because you will make the audience want to hit you. And other things.
I think sometimes I see it that there's some actors that they find it hard to transfer themselves from, say, theatre to screen.
Yeah.
Because that's a different skill set.
It is, entirely.
And I personally struggled with that for a long time. Struggled with that understanding that... I understood that theatre and film were different places, but I wanted to give a very similar performance on the stage on a film.
Yeah.
But a film is very micro.
Oh yeah.
Performance. And if you give that over-exaggerated performance that you might give on the theatre...
It will register as crap.
It will register as crap. It will register as false, as fake.
Yeah.
Authenticity is a big thing that the camera picks up.
Absolutely.
The camera
Absolutely.
they say the camera knows when you're lying. And you're
does.
lying when you perform.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
I've seen it countless times. Like, screen is the absolute bare minimal, but with stage, you can technically get away with being big, but not too big.
Yeah, all different roles have different needs, but because you're on a space that you separate. You've got the people in front of you, but you're often quite separated from them. You do need to be a bit larger than life to be able to project.
Oh yeah.
What it is you're doing. You can't do it, something minuscule like if you used to play with your hands very tinily like this. They're not going to see it.
No.
So you have to do something
a lot bigger.
Not as exaggerated as that. But on film, it does come down to something more micro, doesn't it? The micro twitches and the micro movements.
Yeah.
And the stillness. I often think there's some excellent performers that are just so still. Denzel Washington springs to mind. He is. I go on. You're laughing. You
no, go ahead.
I'm going to say, in his stillness is where I enjoy his performances. Mm-hmm. He can be so still and, I really captivating within that stillness. But you laughed. What was the laughter?
I mean, oh dear.
Go on.
I think he can be good, but a lot of the time his performances I feel are lacking.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess different people also you connect with in different ways.
Yeah.
So I might find one actor very good, and you're saying no, he's actually not. But and I get and we don't all have to have the same opinion on these performances, do we?
No, of course not.
No.
I mean, that doesn't mean you should go, oh, you don't like him? Oh, well, I hate you. Sort of, no, never. Yeah, but there are plenty of shit actors who have become really successful.
Yes.
Like, can you name a few?
Name a few a bad actor.
Yeah.
It's quite hard because I do look at actors subjectively,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they're only good within their space. So an example of an actor that I enjoy within comedy is Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
But when I've seen him step outside of the comedy,
He becomes...
I haven't enjoyed it at all. Now, I know some other people have said, oh, well, actually, he's really good when he does a serious piece. But I haven't enjoyed it. It hasn't resonated. It hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
I remember a film, Punch Drunk Love. Do you know that one at all?
Heard of it.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it. It's Adam Sandler doing a very serious piece. But my problem is he's exactly the same as he would perform in the comedy, and it doesn't work.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. However, critics love that film.
Really?
You know, if you look on like Rotten Tomatoes, it's like got the biggest score, one of the biggest scores going for a drama. But for me, I'm like, what? How? Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
But I think with these opinions of people, I think they are subjective.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, they're us, and you know, my love for him as a comedian outweighs my love for him as a straight actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess then we can take that, and when people don't enjoy the performances that we do, and we get criticised, and because that's going to happen at some point,
We can know what to improve
we
on.
can look at that and go, oh well, it's subjective. That's their point of view. We don't necessarily have to take it.
No.
Because we also do that. We also make judgments, don't we?
Well, yeah. But say, for example, like you were to get criticised, like somebody said, oh, your performance is wooden. Say, like, you took that on board and tried to make it not wooden, and then people say to you, oh, like, critics start saying, oh, like, he's even worse. Mm-hmm. Just because of what one, like, person said, like, he's wooden, and then you do something else, and then more people start saying it's bad.
Yeah, there is that as well. Yeah, that society makes a judgment rather than, you know, it's easier to go with the crowds.
Yeah,
isn't it? Sometimes to make a judgment, it's easier. Oh, if everyone's saying it's bad, it must be bad.
yeah,
yeah. That happens a lot. So yeah, so I think you have to be quite thick-skinned if you're going to be a performer.
Oh yeah,
like you have to be able to take it. Although it's very difficult, isn't it?
yeah.
If we get the bad reviews, it's very difficult to... Yeah, I remember a play that I did hear, in fact, years ago.
Oh, yeah?
That got some, you know, friends and family would be like, oh, yeah, well done, you did really good in that. But then the voices on the outside were like, that was bad.
Oh, dear.
That was bad. And those voices where they're going, that was bad, actually were louder than the ones close to me. Yeah. And it really quite kind of hurt me. And I would go away at the end of the evening going, oh my God, am I doing the right thing with my life? Or should I change it all now?
Really?
Because this hurts a lot, you know. Whereas really, on reflection, I should have only listened to the people that were close to me.
Yeah.
The supporters.
Yeah.
And the people cheering me on. And if people didn't enjoy it, well,
that's their problem.
That's
you know.
You know.
Like, as you said earlier, you know, if one person thinks a movie's good, doesn't mean everyone will find it good. You know, but it's all about you know, opinions and perception. Forgot what I was going to say.
That happens sometimes.
It does.
Sometimes when we're having these deep conversations, we get a moment of just like, where are we?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's very, very normal to happen. But that can take us on to a new subject, I find, when that happens. We may come back to that moment.
We may well do.
We may well do. So What's happening with you at the moment? Are you in anything at the moment? Are you rehearsing anything, or?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's a student film. Well, I wouldn't say a student film, but it's definitely a it's a mercenary bodyguard type film. Mm-hmm. And I'm basically playing a mercenary who's a bit of a madman.
Okay. So you're smiling. I'd say that you're enjoying the part.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I wouldn't say I'm as mad as him. I mean, I'm definitely mad, but not as mad as that. So, yeah, that's going really well. It's really, really fun. It's good people on set. Again, that I resonate with. Had a few mess ups along the way, but
what kind of mess ups?
Well, like some people not being able to do it.
Right.
Camera running out of film, stuff like that.
Normal student film issues where people are learning.
Yeah.
People are discovering things and making mistakes along the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've also found, from doing that film, I found that you'll also meet a lot of arseholes. I mean, there are arseholes everywhere.
You can't escape them.
No, but even in this industry, they're all too common. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I've met actors who are, not many, but I have met some who basically brag about being in a TV show or having a line when they've done fuck all. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it seem
bigger.
Yeah,
Why do you think people do that?
It could be an inflated ego. Mm-hmm. One reason. It could be insecurity. So maybe they don't necessarily want to come across as, an arsehole, but they do it because they want to be valued by other people. It could be narcissism. I don't know.
Yeah, a mixture of all three.
Yeah, mixture of all three.
that often happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, even if you haven't done a lot, you should just take pride in it,
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think that people should be put down just because they haven't done a lot. Because just because you haven't done a lot now doesn't mean you won't do a lot in the future, know?
No, it's it can be tough. I've found it quite tough at times, this industry, of how you're valued, and other people trying to put their value above your value, and it's almost like there's this competition thing going on quite a lot of the time. And I would like to think about, there must be a way that we can change this industry to be more about helping each other up.
Oh yeah.
More about raising. I think we can achieve so much more if we stop looking at each other as competition. Because we're not. At the end of the day, I don't believe anyone's going to take away a part for you that was meant to be for you.
No, of course not.
And if you can look out for people, for instance, we were talking about play when you came here today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, here's an audition.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to be able to do for people.
Yeah.
Because I also believe that will come back to me one day.
Of course it will.
One day you'll go to me, oh, Martin, there's this thing for you now. Do you know? And I honestly believe that will happen. I'm not saying I expect that.
Yeah.
But I believe these things go round.
Well, yeah.
And I think it'll be a nicer place for all of us if we were helping each other out a little bit more.
Well, it would be, because what other people do is, like, what most people do, I think, is they'll probably turn a blind eye to so many things as long as it's not going to mess up their own lives, As long as it's not to do with me, I don't care, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nope. But as you say, like, if we were to help each other out and, give advice to other people, even if it's not great advice, I mean, advice is still advice. So, I mean, whether or not it works, it's still
But there's something within like I say, the human connection of being there for each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, rather than being a competition, and that's what I really didn't enjoy that with acting for a very long time.
Yeah.
The majority of people that I was coming across out in the professional world, not so much within community theatre, but out when I started to seek doing the job for money, the competitiveness seemed to become something different.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it seemed to be a lot of egos out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's
So it makes you question, why do we want to be in a world like that? Why do we want to put ourselves into that industry?
There's no simple answer.
No.
No simple answer. Some people do this because some people do this. Excuse me. Some people do this thinking that they're going to get famous just because they want to be famous.
Yes.
Totally the wrong approach. Mm-hmm. If you want to be an actor, do it because you love it, not because you care about fame. You know, like, because people who just want fame, if you just want to be famous, then you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not just about fame, you know.
If we can touch it on it a little bit. So I was doing a bit of research into you. So have you got you've seen a little bit of fame, haven't you? Like your family, is that right?
Yes.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, but you research me.
Well, research every guest that comes on here.
Okay, yeah.
I just have a little look and see what I can find. And
okay.
I understand. Am I right that you've had your granddad?
Yep.
Was quite famous.
Yeah.
So you've seen what that fame have you seen it, or have you heard what that fame can be like?
No, no. He died the year before I was born.
Right.
But my dad's told me some stories, like being in, you know, the Balearic Islands and getting mobbed by British tourists there when he was with his dad.
So your granddad was Harry Secombe?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a huge British icon.
He was, yeah.
One of the most famous people in this country in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the police, may I have some more scene?
Yes, yeah. Oliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Goonies.
The Goons, yeah.
Yeah. The Goons, sorry. The
Goons.
Right. Goonies is completely different things.
Yeah.
That's a film. The Goons. And he was a singer?
He was as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, What? Oh dear. Kind of got lost what I was going to say there.
So we was talking about like having seen the fame that. So you never knew him.
No, never.
So you just know the stories.
Yeah.
About him.
Yeah.
And do you think fame looked attractive to you from what he went through?
I think in terms of getting a lot of money and like living comfortably, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. But
so he had a good lifestyle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what I want to do, like in my life, is like I don't want to be famous. I just want to like make loads of money from acting because I love it. You want to be
able to make a living through your craft?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just want to be able to do that, make a living, as you say, and basically live comfortably from doing acting.
Yeah. So you saw that, or you heard that your granddad was able to do that.
Yeah.
That he was able to live more than comfortably.
But yeah, like that took a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work, and eventually.
What type of sacrifice? Do you know?
I don't know the full story, but definitely some sacrifices. He had to give up a few things to get where he wanted to be. And eventually he got there. But it took a few years. I mean, when he was serving in North Africa during World War II, he had the chance to practice his career entertaining troops. So through that, he was able to get an idea of what pleases an audience, what doesn't please an audience, you know, different comedy tricks.
He was practicing his craft.
Yeah. Now, I don't know too much about comedy. I mean, I know basically fuck all about it. But with comedy, I kind of come to realise you're either funny or you're not. Mm-hmm. There are some techniques to it. It's all about timing. It's all about observation. It is one of the most difficult types of performing comedy, because you see a lot of comedians try to be clever, or they try too hard to be funny, and it just doesn't work. And then you see other comedians who just don't try hard at all. And, you know, that's what basically works. You know, if an audience finds something funny, great. If they don't, then, well, you know, yeah.
Do you ever look back at his stuff, his comedy?
Yeah.
You do have looked back at it. Is it like a family? As a family, do you look back at it?
No. Actually, well, sometimes with my dad. Sometimes, like, we'll be like, hey, do you want to watch one of Bamper's, like, old videos? And he was like, yeah, let's go ahead. Mm-hmm. And, excuse me, sometimes I scare my dad with my impersonation of my grandfather.
Really?
Yeah, because he's a bit like, all right, that's enough. He goes, no, stop it. Sometimes I'll come into the room, I'll be like, well, I must let you know that I'm leaving at 6 o'clock. Well, he kind of had this, you know, in his later years, his Welsh accent kind of faded a bit. But, you know.
There, I really saw you resonating him there.
Really?
That was, yeah.
Well, have you heard his voice?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I grew up watching that kind of stuff, that old comedy with my grandparents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had that stuff on TV all the time, and I think they really enjoyed him as a singer.
Yeah.
They really I knew that he was a comedian as well, but I'm pretty sure my granddad had CDs of Harry Secombe on CD that he'd play, kind of like opera. Yeah, kind of music. God, there's one in my mind that they used to play quite a lot. And was he on Songs of Praise or?
Yes.
On a Sunday afternoon, he'd be on national telly.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he's very much a staple in my household, in particular my grandparents' household.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact, thinking about it, if my granddad was still here today and he knew I had this kind of connection, I think he would have been quite amazed.
Really?
To be like, wow, there's a connection to Harry Secombe. Wow.
Yeah, that's very touching.
Do you find that nice to know that there was so much love for your granddad?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. You know,
because he was loved, wasn't he, by so many? Like, he was really admired as an entertainer.
Definitely, yeah. Mm. But what I don't try and do is, like, you know, yeah, I've, you know, a relatively well-known grandfather, but what I'm afraid of coming across as, you know, oh, like my granddad was famous, therefore I deserve more respect than you.
No, you're clearly carving out your own path.
Yeah.
You're not riding on the coattails. You're not hanging, you know, off of his shadow. You're not doing any of that. You're doing your own thing. That's very, very clear.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to do something with an entertainment.
Yeah.
But you're not trying to be a comedian and an opera singer. You know, you just have that entertainer in you. You have that performer in you.
Yeah. I mean, but not even just, like, you know, doing everything that he did. Like, you know, like, I'm always afraid of coming across as, like, I'm sort of bragging, which, you know, oh yeah, he was like in Oliver, you know. Mm.
No, but I don't think it's anything. It's definitely nothing to be ashamed of. It's definitely nothing. It's definitely something that you can be proud of.
Yeah.
That you have that connection and.
No, I'm proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
My auntie's an actress. Mm-hmm. She was in Les Miserables.
Right.
And recently she was in Guys and Dolls.
Okay. At the Bridge Theatre.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of which, I've got another story in mind.
Go on.
But yet again, I can't use names.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll change names and location for the purposes of not being sued.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a great story.
Go on.
So my auntie was. This was like late 2020, 2021 time. Since there was hardly any industry work during the pandemic, my auntie found a job as a teacher at an acting school somewhere, to basically teach acting, and as well as voice work and singing and like character work and even improv maybe. When she went to this school, it didn't take her long to realise that the place was being very badly run. Like, students weren't knowing like what they were being taught.
Yeah.
Even some of the staff members were appalled at how badly it was run. Like, there was even this like teacher in his 40s hitting on a girl who was 18, which is appalling, considering the fact that he's a teacher. It's like, why are you employing someone like that? Why? And apparently it was run by a couple, and the head lady there was thick as shit. And basically, she really like figured. I mean, she found it out before, but she really figured it out when my auntie suggested to. I mean, do you know what film noir is?
Yes, yeah.
She suggested to make a showreel of film noir films to show to the students. So she gathered all the students, and hopefully, like, she hoped that it would somewhat inspire them to maybe even make their own films, or like just inspire them like in general with regards to their career as actors. And the students really liked it. It was about 10 minutes. And the next day, in a private business meeting in the staff room, they were talking about the previous day and the showreel of film noir. And the head lady, the head people there trying to appear knowledgeable, as if they knew what they're talking about. And the head lady interjected and went, "I really like those carte noir films." Which is ice cream.
Yes, of course. So she just hadn't... That sounds like the type of thing that I would do, to be fair. That sounds exactly like...
Really?
Yeah. So coming back to learning difficulties, actually.
Yeah.
And you'll find if you ever listen back on any of these podcast episodes, you'll often hear me using the wrong words.
Really?
What did I do recently? I had the mayor of this town on the podcast, and I talk about something, and watching it back, I just cringe because I'm like, I used the wrong word, very similar to that.
Yeah.
I can't memorize it to quote it now.
Yeah.
But I'm often doing that, using the wrong words in place of something. And actually, someone told me recently it's because I'm dyslexic that I do it.
Really? Oh,
it's a dyslexic
really?
trait.
Even in the mind?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a dyslexic trait. I went to an audition once, and I did a similar thing, and I memorised the audition, the speech.
Yeah.
And the lady said to me, like, "Are you dyslexic by any chance?" I was like, "Yes, but how can you tell? I'm not reading off the page." She said, "Because you've taken words and you've twisted the words."
Oh, I see.
Within your speech.
You're right.
She said, I'm dyslexic and I do that all the time as well. And it's a dyslexic trait that's not often spoken about. This twisting of words.
Wow.
Finding something that's similar and replacing it with the completely wrong thing. I want to get my phone now and quote you the one where I had the well, he's not a mayor, he's called the chair of Harlow. We don't have a mayor, we have a chair. But yeah, I say something on that which is it sounds quite comical. Listen to it back, and cringy as well. I saw you just check the time there. How are we doing for time? Because you got to get back to London.
10 minutes.
Good.
10 past. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's good. We've been talking for a long time here. We covered quite a lot. I'd like to know what your hopes and dreams are for the future. Where do you hope to go with this?
I'd certainly like to be on the West End, for sure. Possibly even Broadway.
Okay.
Make a living out of it. Make a living out of it. Hopefully live comfortably. Strive towards that. Don't sit on my arse too much, because then nothing will happen then. and just not be an arsehole, really. Like, just treat other people fairly, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one to end it with. That's a good one to, a personal thing rather than just looking at the career.
Yeah.
How are you as a person going to move forward? That's quite interesting. Be a good person, not be like the arseholes.
Well, yeah.
Even as you progress and move forward, even as things start to change for you, and you start to earn a living, I guess it could be easy to fall into that place of, look at what I'm doing, look at me, and that's where you remember those times when it wasn't good for you.
There you go.
Yeah. So West End, living comfortably, performing. Yeah. That's the dream.
Yeah. And if screen comes along my way, fuck it, yeah, I'll do it. The things I don't want to do: work in an office, get fat.
Okay.
What else?
So self-care again.
Yes.
I said this to my son recently as well. He's a little bit unsure about what he wants to do in the future. And I
really?
said, well, what would be like the worst nightmare scenario?
Yeah.
What do you want to
avoid doing?
What do you want to avoid doing? And that's often, I think, quite useful.
Yeah.
To be like, where don't I want to be? And then that can help you stay on the track for where you do want to be.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Because, I don't know, some people get into the trap of thinking, oh, it'll come to me. It never does. You've got to move towards that. I used to be like that. I still am in some ways.
I think it starts to come to you in bits as you're moving towards it.
Really?
So if you're making the move towards going somewhere, it's amazing. I reference this podcast a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm astounded by how it's working out. By me moving forward, I've got this thing that I'm moving forward with. And as I'm moving forward, things are coming to me as well. So I'm making an effort, but also things are coming in. Yeah.
So what you give, you get given. And sometimes what you take is, you get the general picture.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's moving things around all the time, and along the way, as long as you're moving. Walt Disney said, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset that I like to live by. Keep moving forward, and it worked for Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when it best works for me.
Can't go back. Only way to go
is forward.
Yeah.
And that's why you didn't feel so well when you was in COVID.
No.
In that period of time when you was doing COVID, it was difficult.
Nowhere to go.
You had nowhere to go, nowhere to move.
Yeah.
No direction.
Absolutely.
So without the direction, you become lost. You smoke too much weed, and I've been in that similar situation.
I used to smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah, occasionally do now. But not to the extent that it becomes a problem.
No.
Not to the extent that it holds back life, that it stops life. I know there's controversy around cannabis, weed.
I think it should be legalised.
I think it's a safer drug than, from all the scientific evidence that I've looked at and heard and seen, it's safer than alcohol.
Yeah, and which is legal. And it never will be illegal.
So what are we really basing our knowledge off when we try and give it a stigma? When we try,
Yeah.
I think you'd have had a worse time if in COVID you became an alcoholic.
Oh yeah, big time.
So I think these things, like, we have to be careful when we're talking about drugs, to not promote it.
Yeah.
To not say, yes, like, smoke weed, yes, do alcohol, but I'm kind of rationalising the whole landscape of drugs and alcohol, and making informed decisions, because those things are in the world.
Of course they are. There's no way around them.
So they're out there. So find an informed decision rather than just doing what society tells you to do. And
yeah, I mean, if you want to do drugs, cool, but if you can't control it, basically just know the risks. Because some people, I mean, this very, very, very rarely happens. Some people do drugs once and it fucks them up forever, but that's so rare. Yeah. It's so rare.
But that's something you should be aware of. It's making informed choices with these things.
Yeah.
One last question for you. I don't want to get too much on political subjects like drugs and alcohol.
Oh no, go ahead.
It's only because of your time, because I know you've got a long journey back. I was thinking about that kid you were when you were back at school, and how you struggled and you came away with little no qualifications from it. You didn't achieve anything from it. If you had an opportunity to go back and talk to that kid now, that young James, what would you say to him?
Good question. That is a very good question. That is very difficult. That's very difficult.
It's a real hypothetical.
I will come up with an answer.
Yeah. What we can do, because that's a deep one, that's a difficult one. Maybe when you review this back, just post it in the comments for me.
An answer's coming.
Oh, it's coming now. Not in a few weeks' time. Okay.
What I would say, because you feel like you can't do it now, doesn't mean you can't. Just at least give it a try. You know, like give Shakespeare and some subjects a try, you know.
Try things out.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to discover.
There you go. Yeah. And just because you feel like this now doesn't mean you feel like this forever. No feelings ever last forever. You know, at the moment I've got a bit of a bad back. It doesn't mean that's going to last forever, does it?
No.
You know?
Same with the mental feelings.
Yeah.
And thoughts.
Or if you're just a Burke, you're probably not going to be a Burke forever, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, some people change their ways, but other people don't. Because they think whatever they do is always right. But, excuse me, I was very rebellious as a young kid. I never really took no for an answer until I got a bit older. Because in 2020, I had a real wake-up call. I can't go into detail about what it was, but basically it was a real fucking crisis for me. And I learnt a very big lesson. So yeah.
Yeah.
And from that, basically just move forward. Don't care about the past. Focus on what you can control, and what you can't control, tell it to fuck off, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, sorry to interrupt.
Don't, you carry on. This is your space.
Just before we go, I'll say, are there people watching this right now?
No, it's not live.
Okay.
No.
But
well, there will be people watching it right now, but later on.
Okay. Here's what I'll say for the people who are going to watch it later. If you've ever been like told that you're shit or you're crap or that you'll never amount to anything, tell them they can stick their hands up their own arses and walk off. Because just because you get told that does not mean that you are that. And if you feel that you can do something that you love, do it. That was really cheesy.
Sometimes it's important to say it. And I believe that that's what this is. This is a place where it's important to say the things that need to be said.
Yeah.
So thank you, James.
No problem.
I really appreciate your time today. Exciting to watch your career moving forward. If anyone wants to find out more about you, where do they go to find out a little bit more about James? You on Instagram?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
You can do a shout out. I don't mind.
Yeah. How do we just if we put in James Secombe, we'll find you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Will we?
James_Secombe 69.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Has a Welsh and an Irish flag on it, and has my height as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Has your basic details there,
yeah.
If anyone wants to know.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to find out more about the BTS Creative Academy, do you know what they need to search?
BTS Creative Academy.
Love it, yeah. Simple. So on pretty much every platform going at the moment.
Well, can I do a shout out for you?
You can, of course, yes.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. I'll be like, check out his podcast. Really good fun, very good questions, and very nice theatre as well. Yeah.
Appreciate it, James.
No worries.
Thank
no
you.
worries.
Thank you if anyone is watching or listening. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to like, subscribe. That's how you'll make sure that you don't miss out on any future conversations. And yeah, again, thank you.
And thank you, Martin.
Thank you, James.
Anyway.